In the 1890s, the brutal reign of King Leopold II over the Congo Free State led to widespread atrocities, with millions suffering under forced labor and violence. This haunting image captures a Congolese boy whose hand was severed by the Belgian militia as punishment for his father failing to meet rubber quotas, a common and terrifying practice used to enforce compliance. The exploitation of the Congolese people fueled the wealth of Belgium while leaving a legacy of suffering. Reports of these human rights abuses eventually led to international outrage, forcing Leopold to relinquish control in 1908. However, the scars of colonial brutality endured, and this image remains a stark reminder of one of history's darkest colonial chapters. Karl Tanzler, a German-born radiographer in Florida, became infatuated with his tuberculosis patient, Elena de Hoyos, during her treatment. Despite his efforts, she passed away in 1931 at just 22 years old. Unable to accept her death, Tanzler stole her corpse from the mausoleum 2 years later and attempted to preserve her body using wax, silk, and wires, keeping her in his home for 7 years. In 1940, a concerned relative grew suspicious and discovered Tanzler's horrifying secret. When the authorities intervened, they found Elena's remains grotesquely altered in a desperate attempt to maintain her lifelike appearance. Although he was arrested, legal loopholes prevented a serious conviction, and he remained free. Tanzler's macabre devotion remains one of the most disturbing cases of obsession in modern history, blurring the line between love and madness. Mary Shanley, famously known as Deadshot Mary, was a trailblazer in the NYPD during the 1930s. As the department's fourth-ever female detective, she quickly built a formidable reputation, credited with making over 1,000 arrests throughout her career. Her sharpshooting skills earned her the nickname, but her bravery went beyond firearms. On one occasion, she subdued a suspect armed with nothing but her pocketbook. Shanley patrolled the streets of New York in plain clothes, blending in with crowds to catch criminals off guard. Her fearless approach and dedication to justice. In March 1939, Emil Hácha, the president of Czechoslovakia, returned to Prague visibly devastated after a fateful meeting in Berlin. Under immense pressure from Adolf Hitler, Hácha was forced to sign away Czechoslovak independence, turning the nation into a German protectorate. The decision, made under duress and threats of military destruction, marked the complete dismantling of Czechoslovakia and its submission to Nazi rule. His somber return symbolized the end of his nation's sovereignty, a moment of national humiliation that would echo throughout World War II. In December 1970, West German Chancellor Willy Brandt knelt before the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising Memorial in a powerful and unexpected act of contrition. His silent gesture honored the Jewish victims of the Nazi occupation and acknowledged Germany's responsibility for the atrocities committed during World War II. The moment, now known as the Kniefall von Warschau, Warsaw genuflection, became a defining symbol of reconciliation and the moral reckoning of post-war Germany. Brandt's humility resonated worldwide, reinforcing efforts to mend historical wounds and build a future based on remembrance and peace. On October 9, 1934, King Alexander I of Yugoslavia was assassinated in Marseille, France, by Bulgarian nationalist Vlado Chernozemski. The attack, orchestrated by the Internal Macedonian Revolutionary Organization, IMRO, and the Croatian Ustase movement, was part of a broader effort to destabilize Yugoslavia. As the king arrived for a state visit, Chernozemski opened fire, killing Alexander instantly and mortally wounding French Foreign Minister Louis Barthou. The shocking assassination, captured on film, led to heightened security concerns across Europe and underscored the rising tensions that would later culminate in World War II. In 1988, renowned physicist and dissident Andrei Sakharov was interviewed in Moscow by Boris Nemtsov, a rising physicist and future politician. Sitting beside him was his wife, Yelena Bonner, a steadfast human rights advocate. Sakharov, once celebrated as the father of the Soviet hydrogen bomb, had by then become the USSR's most prominent critic of government oppression. After years of exile and surveillance, he had been allowed to return to Moscow in 1986, continuing his fight for democracy and human rights. This image captures one of his last public engagements before his sudden death in 1989. His legacy as a scientist-turned-activist remains a powerful symbol of moral courage in the face of authoritarianism. In 1968, legendary musician Frank Zappa was photographed by Baron Wallman atop a tractor in Laurel Canyon, the epicenter of Los Angeles's counterculture music scene. Known for his avant-garde compositions and rebellious spirit, Zappa stood apart from the mainstream, blending rock, jazz, and satire into his groundbreaking work. This playful yet surreal image captures Zappa's unconventional nature, a man as comfortable challenging societal norms as he was riding a tractor in the hills of Laurel Canyon. His influence on experimental music and artistic freedom remains unmatched. In 1974, Tim Curry and Little Nell, stars of the Rocky Horror Picture Show, recreated the iconic Coppertone sunscreen ad during a trip to Palm Springs. The light-hearted moment reflected the cast's offbeat charm and the film's irreverent spirit. At the time, Rocky Horror was still a cult stage production, but within a year, it would explode onto the big screen, cementing its place in pop culture history. This candid shot captures the carefree energy of two performers who would go on to define a generation of musical rebellion and campy brilliance. In 1946, Amon Goeth, the former commandant of the Plazow concentration camp, was escorted by Polish guards to the courthouse in Krakow for sentencing. Known for his brutal reign of terror, Goeth was responsible for the deaths of thousands of Jewish prisoners and was infamous for his sadistic cruelty. Captured after the war, he was tried by the Supreme National Tribunal of Poland and found guilty of war crimes and crimes against humanity. Sentenced to death, Goeth was hanged on September 13, 1946. His trial and execution marked a small measure of justice for the victims of the Holocaust. In 1942, British Prime Minister Winston Churchill was photographed at the White House in an unusually casual appearance, a rare sight for a leader known for his formal attire and dignified presence. During World War II, Churchill made several visits to Washington, D.C., to coordinate war efforts with President Franklin D. Roosevelt. This image captures a more relaxed side of the wartime leader, offering a glimpse into the close relationship between the U.S. and the U.K. during one of history's most critical moments. A photograph from the 1980s captures a young Donald Trump in the company of his family and Jeffrey Epstein, the wealthy financier later convicted of sex crimes. During this period, Trump, a rising real estate mogul, moved within elite social circles, often attending high-profile parties and events alongside other influential figures. While their association was documented in photographs and social settings, Trump later distanced himself from Epstein as allegations against him surfaced. This image serves as a reminder of the interconnected world of wealth, power, and controversy that shaped the era. In the Victorian era, long exposure times of 30 seconds or more made photographing infants a challenge. To keep children still, mothers would often be concealed under cloths, behind furniture, or disguised within the background while holding their child in place. These eerie yet fascinating portraits, where ghostly outlines of mothers can sometimes be seen, reflect both the technical limitations and cultural sensibilities of 19th-century photography. Today, hidden mother photographs are studied as peculiar relics of a time when capturing an image required patience, creativity, and a steady hand, sometimes quite literally. Before becoming the beloved People's Princess, Diana Spencer worked as a kindergarten teacher in London. In 1980, she was photographed during her time at the Young England Kindergarten, showcasing the warmth and care that would later define her public image. This period of her life was just before her engagement to Prince Charles, making her the first royal bride in British history to have held a paying job before marriage. These early images of Diana, surrounded by children, offer a group of men poses in front of a brickyard in Butte, Montana, sometime between 1885 and 1890. Butte, known for its booming mining industry, saw a rapid growth during this period, and brickmaking played a crucial role in the city's expansion. These workers, dressed in rugged attire, represent the backbone of industrial America, laborers who toiled long hours to help build the infrastructure of a rapidly developing nation. Their stern expressions and worn hands reflect the hard work and resilience required in the unforgiving frontier of the American West. A haunting photograph of Afro-Brazilian survivors from the Canudos settlement, taken after the Brazilian army brutally crushed the rebellion in 1897. Canudos, a remote community in northeastern Brazil, was founded by followers of the mystic Antonio Conselheiro, who sought refuge from government oppression. After a prolonged and bloody siege, the Brazilian military obliterated the settlement, massacring thousands, including women and children. The survivors seen in this image stand as the last remnants of a once thriving community, their expressions bearing the weight of unimaginable loss. A stunning production still of Myrna Loy from The Barbarian, also known as A Night in Cairo, directed by Sam Wood in 1933. In this pre-code romance adventure, Loy plays an elegant Western woman caught in the allure and danger of the exoticized East. Known for her versatility, Loy seamlessly transitioned from early Hollywood's femme fatale roles to later becoming the beloved, perfect wife, in classic American cinema. This film is a reflection of Hollywood's fascination with Orientalist themes, blending romance, adventure, and melodrama in a lavish depiction of 1930s Egypt. In 1995, Rebecca Romijn was on the verge of stardom, making a name for herself in the fashion industry before transitioning into acting. Known for her striking looks and statuesque presence, she quickly became a top model, gracing the covers of major magazines and working with elite designers. Her breakthrough into Hollywood came a few years later, most notably with her role as Mystique in X-Men, 2000, where she captivated audiences with her transformative performance. Romijn's early years in modeling laid the foundation for her successful acting career, making her one of the most recognizable faces of the late 90s and early 2000s. Italian politician Aldo Moro, one of Italy's most influential post-war leaders, is seen here enjoying a peaceful moment at the beach with his daughter. As a longtime statesman and former prime minister, Moro played a key role in shaping Italy's political landscape during the 1960s and 1970s. Despite his prominence, Moro's life ended in tragedy when he was kidnapped and assassinated by the Red Brigades in 1978. This rare, intimate image contrasts with the turmoil that later defined his legacy, capturing a father's tender moment away from the political storm. In December 1937, during the early months of the Second Sino-Japanese War, Japanese forces captured the city of Nanjing, leading to one of the most infamous war crimes of the 20th century. The weeks that followed became known as the Nanjing Massacre, marked by mass executions, widespread sexual violence, and unimaginable brutality against Chinese civilians and prisoners of war. This image captures a chilling moment, Japanese soldiers taunting helpless Chinese civilians amid the occupation. It stands as a haunting reminder of the horrors inflicted upon the people of Nanjing and the suffering endured during this dark chapter in history. As World War I neared its end, the British-led Mesopotamian campaign dealt a decisive blow to the Ottoman Empire in the region. In October 1918, British and Allied forces captured Kirkuk, a strategic city in modern-day Iraq. This image shows Ottoman soldiers taken prisoner during the battle, a stark representation of the crumbling Ottoman hold over Mesopotamia. The fall of Kirkuk was one of the final military actions before the Armistice of Mudros, which effectively marked the end of Ottoman involvement in the war and set the stage for the empire's eventual dissolution. This rare glimpse into the interior of the Table Bluff Hotel and Saloon in Humboldt County, California, captures the essence of the late 19th century American West. With its ornate wooden bar, rows of liquor bottles, and well-dressed patrons, the saloon was a social hub for locals, travelers, and fortune-seekers alike. During this era, saloons were more than just drinking establishments, they served as gathering places where politics, business, and entertainment converged. This image offers a window into the rugged yet refined atmosphere of California's frontier days. In this striking image from 1990, Monica Bellucci exudes timeless elegance and natural beauty at the dawn of her career. Before becoming an international film star, she first gained recognition as a fashion model, captivating audiences with her magnetic presence and classical Italian features. Her transition from modeling to cinema would soon establish her as one of the most celebrated actresses of her generation, known for her roles in Melina, The Matrix Reloaded, and The Passion of the Christ. This photograph captures the essence of Bellucci's early years, graceful, enigmatic, and destined for stardom. With her impossibly tiny waist and signature hourglass figure, Betty Brosmer became one of the most iconic pin-up models of the 1950s. Winning over 50 beauty contests before the age of 20, she graced countless magazine covers, advertising campaigns, and calendars, cementing her status as the highest-paid model of her era. Beyond her stunning looks, Brosmer later became a fitness advocate and co-founded Shape magazine, promoting health and strength for women. This image captures her at the height of her modeling career, embodying the golden age of glamour and femininity.